Hello everyone and welcome to another MDNA tutorial. My name is Dan Ramirez and today we're going to talk about position of buttons in a responsive project in Adobe Captivate or any element for that matter. So one thing I love the most about responsive projects is the challenge to make it look perfect in different sizes, especially desktop and a device mode, which are the most used in this industry. Responsive projects are the new way of taking courses. In our company here in MDNA, these courses are getting more and more common to the ease of taking the course anywhere. Even the responsive projects have been in this industry for a really long time. And although introduction to fluid boxes has no more than 5 years, we can say they are relatively new. But let me tell you, these are a game changer for the better. So we will need fluid boxes so our buttons maintain their position and size in the different devices, and we can change it to look better in a device mode or iPad mode. So we're gonna see an example here before we jump right in, and I'm gonna change the size of my screen to a device mode. As you can see, our logo is compressed, and then we hit start. And this slide is just compressed as well, but as you can see, the buttons don't change their size that much, and what it's doing, these boxes are just compressing, but they aren't disappearing. You see, I have these small boxes. This happens automatically when our text or elements within the fluid box doesn't fit. They automatically put these clicks so you can open it and read the text completely. So this is the same exact slide that the one before, but we change it in design. So now the boxes are getting to a column. As you can see, those clicks disappear. Again, my buttons stay in the same size. These are actually a fluid box within a fluid box within a fluid box. If I want to, I could disappear this. This one is configured as a column. As you can see, I only have now 2 buttons here, but again, the buttons stay in the same position and the same size. And the position is relative to the device you're taking the course in. This slide, as you can see, once we compress it to a device mode, the image is on top instead of being on the side. But again, if there are elements in your because you don't need in a device mode and you don't think they're as important, they can disappear, and we're gonna look into that in a bit. And that's the end of our course. So we're gonna jump into Adobe Captivate so we can know how to configure this. Okay, now that we're in Captivate, let's jump right in to see how fluid boxes work. So this is our first slide. The only thing I want for this particular slide is that the start button stays in the same position and size, whether it's taken in a desktop or mobile. And of course, it's relative, right? It's relative to the size of the course or the device, sorry. To achieve this, we need to make sure that our buttons or elements belong to an independent fluid box. And this is really important for you to know. In this case, as you can see, my start button is in its own fluid box. And it's highlighted in blue, as you can see. So let's see the characteristics of a fluid box. And we can find this right here. So first of all, we have content flow. Content flow allows us to see and choose how we want our fluid boxes to look in a horizontal or vertical way, meaning that once the screen is compressed or in a desktop mode, it would organize the elements in a vertical, like a column, or in a horizontal way, like a row. Let's see an example right here. Let's just see this fluid box, this main fluid box. I have it in a vertical content flow, but what happens if I choose to have a horizontal content flow? So it's making a row, as you can see. And I don't like the look of it, so I'm going to change it to vertical mode as well. And this is really important for you to know. Don't be afraid if you see that this happens to your course, because Captivate, what it does is once you choose your vertical or horizontal way, and depending how many rows or columns you want in your fluid box, in this case I have 3 different columns, you can just change the size, because Captivate, what it does is that it creates the fluid boxes all at the same size. And there we go. And let's talk about this particular fluid box. We see that it has its content flow, it's vertical, and my alignment is center line and space around, and it's squeezing a column. To be honest, we need to see another slide for us to understand wrap options. So let's jump that right in. And I'm just going to explain to you what's a wrap option. This means that if the course is being taken in the smallest device, which in this case is a phone, then there's ways you can configure the elements on the slide to create the look and design you're looking for in your particular course. Within the wrap options, there are 4 different options you can choose to make your course look good. Let's see the first, wrap to next column. And so I configure this particular fluid box, again, highlighted in blue, to the wrap to next column or row. And this is really important for you to know. So depending on your content flow, if it's vertical, it's going to say wrap to next column or squeeze in a column. If it's horizontal, it's going to say wrap to next row, squeeze in a row. And see how it changed the little design they have. It all depends on your content flow. So this particular fluid box has a content flow a vertical content flow, sorry, and I configure it to have wrap to next option. So look what happens. See what happens. So what it does now, because I have my wrap to next column option, what it does is that it actually moves the fluid box into another column. Now let's see another example, and as you can see, I'm in a different slide. The next wrap option is squeeze in a row, and what it does is, like its name says, it's going to compress all the elements in the fluid box to just one row. Again, it's going to squeeze it in a row if your content flow is horizontal. It's going to squeeze it in a column if your content flow is vertical. So in this case, my content flow is horizontal and my wrap option is squeeze in a row. So look what happens. The buttons stay the same size and they stay in the same position relative to the device the course is taken. And let's talk about alignments really quick. If I choose to have a space in between, that means that it's gonna create the space to be covering the entire fluid box. And if I choose a space around, which in this case I did, it's just gonna create spaces between the elements within the fluid box, but that they are equally distributed. Now let's see the third option, and for that option I'm gonna move into a different slide. There it is. This is the slide we're gonna choose for this particular example. So the third wrap option is one row or column. So the elements are gonna be organized within the fluid box, whether in a column or a row. So this is my fluid box, and you can barely see it because of the colors I choose for this course, but this is the fluid box I configure to a one column wrap option. So what it does is, as its name says, it's gonna put the elements within that fluid box, and that fluid box will have the characteristic to be in just one column in this case, because my content flow is vertical. And I think before I jump into the fourth wrap option, I want to talk about some characteristics or some elements that a fluid box can have. And this is what I talk about: optional and static. So optional means that it's going to exclude the object when it cannot fit in the screen. So if I check this option, what it's going to do is that this particular element or this particular fluid box is going to disappear if I take it in a smaller screen. And I think this is really helpful, especially when it comes to elements that you don't think they're necessary to be there or necessary for the learners to know. I use it particularly in images. You know, we use images to make the course more appealing to the eye, but at the same time, when people are taking the course in their phone, is to make it quicker. So images aren't that necessary. So I use this option most often in images. And then the other option is static. So static means that it's going to maintain the relative position of the object in a fluid box. So I have this text box, and I can move it around with whatever I want to, and it's going to maintain the same position relative to the size of the device you're taking the course. Again, this is really helpful when it comes to images, or when it comes to text that you don't want them to change their position. Remember guys, practice makes perfect. So in order for you to achieve this, you need to be practicing and practicing and practicing. And once you get used to fluid boxes, believe me, you won't be able to live without them. And finally, we're gonna look into our fourth wrap option, which is symmetrical here. So symmetrical, as its name points out, it distributes the fluid boxes in a symmetrical way, like this example. So my fluid boxes are distributed equally in a column and row, making kind of like a rectangle or square. And when I choose to take the course or see the course in an iPad mode or phone or device size, it's going to maintain the same exact symmetrical wrap option I decided to have. So what it's going to do is just going to squeeze all the elements to fit in the screen. This is another example of squeezing a column. This is the same exact slide. I just changed the color so you could see the difference. And even though my fluid box, which is this one, like this fluid box, I'm gonna say the white fluid box, I have any wrap option. It's making this, the fluid box is within that particular fluid box to be symmetrical, but I configure those I would say smaller fluid boxes into squeeze in a row, and then this into squeeze in a column. As you can see, I have a lot of fluid boxes here and a mix of vertical and horizontal. So bear with me, I'm going to explain all of it. So this is one fluid box with 2 rows. Okay, I have 2 rows. So that I configure to be wraps to be squeezed in a row. My wrap option is to squeeze in a row. And then this fluid box that contains these 2 fluid boxes is squeezed in a column. So look what happens here. It's going to squeeze my elements to be in a column and not squeeze like in this one. And I think this one looks better. Again, you will need to be practicing in order for you to know what is the look you want to achieve. And finally, let's talk about alignment. And I think this is the best slide to work with to talk about alignment. So we have a horizontal line and a vertical line. So if I decide to have the left aligned, then the elements within my fluid box are going to be aligned in the left side. Then center, then right align. Now space around and space in between. And I think we talked about this a little bit in the slide before. And I think these examples look, so a space in between is that I have 2 independent text box in this particular fluid box. Oh, that's a lot of bugs there. So what it's gonna do is that's gonna be created a space in between in order to fit the board at the end of the border of my fluid box, or in order to fit in the entire fluid box. So you see here how my text box is really like aligned with the fluid box. It's really at the border. And a space around, this means that it's just gonna create a nice space between, a relative space where it's gonna look good. And that's it, you guys. That's how fluid boxes work. Again, you will need to be practicing in order for you to be familiar with fluid boxes, but believe me, they're easy to use, they're easy to understand, and once you practice enough, you are not going to be able to work in a responsive project without fluid boxes. They came to change the game in a really positive way. I hope you guys like this tutorial and I hope you found it helpful. Don't forget to check out the rest of our blog for more tutorials, and I see you next time. Bye.